What's up guys, John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. Today I want to give you just one quick tip that you can ensure that you get an actual raise, that you actually get a pay bump when you get a raise at your company. This is so critical right now with inflation being ridiculous. If you're going to get a raise, you need to make sure it's a significant one in order to compensate you for the increase in the cost of living. So here's what you need to do. First of all, let me tell you what people do wrong. So what I see most of the time with software developers is they will wait until it's review time, and then they will try to have a good performance review and do as best as possible and list all their accomplishments and achievements and all that, and then throw it over to the hands of fate to determine what their raise is going to be. And most likely what happens is you get a 3% raise or a 5% raise, or you don't get that promotion or that pay bump or that new engineering title that you'd like to have. And then you get upset about that, and then you talk to your manager and he says next time. Now, what you want to do instead is you want to be very, very proactive about this. So a lot of times, depending on the company you're with, the review process starts a year before the review. So you have this sort of thing when you do the review process at the end of the year where you plan what you're going to do the next year and what your goals are and all this and how you're going to be evaluated. So at that point, that's where you need to be setting up some real solid goals for what you want. So let's say that you're making $90,000 a year and you want to make $100,000 a year. Right then and there, you want to tell your boss, and the next year I want to be bumped up to $100,000 a year. What do I need to do in order to do this? Or maybe you have a different pay band and a different title. So you need to be moved up to a promotion. So in that case, you want to say, okay, in order to go from software engineer 2 to software engineer 3, what do I need to be accomplishing? What are the requirements for me to be a software engineer 3? If I did these things, and you want to have that conversation a year out in advance if you can. Now, I'll give you a caveat if something you can do if it's too late for a year out in advance, because there's some other things we can do, so stay tuned. But here's the thing. You want to know exactly what it is and have an informal conversation with your manager about this and say, look, so if I create a blog and I am considered an expert in the field, like I've given some talks at conferences or whatever it is, so that you're saying that this would be what a software engineer 3 does, or like I have this level of complexity of code, I have these certifications, whatever it is, just talk about it and say, where am I at now? I'm software engineer 2, I want to be software engineer 3. So what is the gap? What is the difference? So if I do all of these things this year, then I'd be qualified for this. Get that confirmation verbally first. Then, after you go back to your desk, write it all down, send an email, and say, look, so here's what we talked about. I just wanted to confirm. We talked about me going from software engineer 2 to software engineer 3. We talked about my pay going up $10,000 a year, whatever it is. And these are the things that I need to do in order to do that. And if I'm able to accomplish all these goals, if honestly you can evaluate me and say that I'm doing the roles that we just talked about as a software engineer 3, then I should be promoted to that position. So you send that as an email, and now you're set up for this. Now, if it's too late because it's not a year out in advance, however far in advance. So right now, if you're 6 months from your review, start now. Go have a meeting with your boss and be like, look, I want this. This is what I want. I want this much more money, and I want this title or whatever it is. Whatever you're trying to aspire for, don't hope and pray. Just tell your boss exactly what it is that you want, and then have a meeting and discuss what needs to be done and send the email. Just like I said, if it's 3 months in advance, and then do the same thing. Now, what I want you to do also, as you get towards the end of this, as you're getting closer, let's say you're 2 months out from the review, remind your boss and say, look, here's where I'm at. I've accomplished all these things. The review's coming up in 2 months. This is what my expectation is. So based on all these things, I'm expecting that I am going to get this promotion. I'm expecting I'm going to get this pay raise like we talked about. Make that clear, because what happens is before the review goes out, the budgeting happens about a couple months before then. And so if you don't have that conversation and constantly remind your boss what you agreed to and what you're doing and show that, then you're going to have a problem, because they're already going to budget this money, and then trying to fight for it afterwards is way, way more difficult. If you like this video, definitely make sure that you watch. I've got another video that is going to really help you. I didn't have time to go cover this in this video, but part of what you need to do is send a weekly report every week to your boss. You need to know how to do that. So watch this video on how to write a professional weekly report for your manager. Watch this video next, and that is so critical to combining these two strategies together.